So you might be asking, why is Jackson walking in a forest? Well, like many of you around the world, most of us here in the US, especially here in Washington DC area, we are working from home because we are under lockdown restrictions. So we can socially distance and hopefully break the spread of the virus. I know many of you are in lockdown wherever you are around the world, especially in Africa. Many African cities are under lockdown. Working from home does not stop us from covering the pandemic. And on the show, as always, we bring you the latest in entertainment news, the latest in sports, in film and television from around the world. Let's start off the show. We'll start with actor Idris Elba, who contracted the coronavirus, and he later on passed it on to his wife. Fortunately, both of them are feeling better. They got treated, they quarantined, and they're better. So both of them are actually helping in the fight against COVID, especially in Africa. And this says something about it. Check it out.
They have joined forces with the United Nations to raise funds to lessen the impact of COVID-19 on farmers and food producers in rural areas. Elba says people in rural and poor areas are likely to suffer more from the pandemic.
If it hits Africa in the way it's been hitting the West, that is a lot of people, a lot more people, and a lot of devastation. And without the support networks of health administrations, in a major way, so it is a very, very worrying scenario, not just for African American people, but or Black people generally, but for our world. It's super worrying, and this is why we're thinking that highlighting what we're doing here is about forward planning.
His wife, model Sabrina Dowry Elba, emphasized the need to be inclusive.
People forget that 80% of the poor population live in these rural areas. What we are really worried about at the moment, and why we're launching this fund, is that those people are being forgotten.
Now, some of the world's biggest names in music came together virtually, that is, to celebrate health workers on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic. During the TV special One World Together at Home, Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder,
sometimes in our lives we all have pain.
Burna Boy,
The African giant.
Lizzo,
But I know a change gon' come.
and Jennifer Lopez
All the luckiest people.
sang classic songs with messages of hope. Beyoncé and Alicia Keys used the platform to speak on how the virus has disproportionately affected African Americans. Beyoncé thanked delivery workers, mail carriers, and sanitation employees for their hard work during the pandemic. She said,
Black Americans disproportionately belong to these essential parts of the workforce that do not have the luxury of working from home. And African American communities at large have been severely affected in this crisis. Those with pre-existing conditions are at an even higher risk.
Lady Gaga, who curated the All-Star event with the international advocacy organization Global Citizen and the World Health Organization, kicked it off with a performance of Nat King Cole's version of the song Smile.
Smile though your heart is breaking. Smile even though it's aching. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile through your fear and sorrow. Smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through.
The event also featured former First Ladies Michelle Obama and Laura Bush, Actress Lupita Nyong'o, Oprah Winfrey, Bill and Melinda Gates, they all offered positive words of hope while showing photos of health workers and everyday people at the front line of the pandemic. The event raised nearly $128 million for coronavirus relief. So to beat the COVID blues and the lockdown, many people around the world have gotten really creative. Some working out in the streets. We saw the story from Lagos last week. And this is a story of how one community in Brazil is spending time during this lockdown with the help of a film company. Check it out.
Members of the Lins de Vasconcelos neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro were in for a treat as a film was projected onto a panoramic screen for residents to enjoy from the windows of their homes. The short festival Cinema at Home is a free initiative by RioFilme and the Municipal Culture Secretary to brighten up the lives of residents in quarantine, says Cesar Miranda Ribeiro, president of RioFilme.
We bring this to people who are in quarantine, who are going through these difficult times, the same as everyone in the world, so that they have a little more joy and feel comforted.
Local resident Aline Alves dos Santos, who has a different able child, said the show helped to soothe her son, Felipe.
He was very anxious, waiting for the time to come for us to be watching a film like we do at the cinema. I think the initiative is very good for us because we are going through such a delicate and difficult time in isolation. And bringing this project here for us, it's a great thing.
I draw, I watch movies, series, adventure, fiction, various genres.
And now for some sports and the new documentary everyone is talking about, The Last Dance, the 10-part series that focuses on the final year of the 90s Bull dynasty that won 6 NBA titles in 8 years, with basketball legend Michael Jordan leading the pack. When discussing his memories of his final NBA championship season with the Chicago Bulls in an interview with Good Morning America, Jordan said, quote, "It was a trying year and we were all trying to enjoy that year knowing that it was coming to an end." The series has begun airing on ESPN in the United States and on Netflix internationally and will be rolled out over 5 consecutive weeks through mid-May. And in more sports news, let's head to the continent of Africa, in the DR Congo, where fans of American football are trying to introduce the sport to local sports fans. VOA's Anastasie Tudaisi reports from Kinshasa. Check it out.
Hussein Chafali is out to change the sporting narrative in a country where soccer is king and American football is largely unknown.
I am a huge fan of American football, the Patriots, Cleveland, the New York Giants. Then I had this eagerness. I am eager man, eager to see American football to become one of the most influential sports in our country.
The self-taught coach is founder of the Kinshasa Football League, where he is promoting the sport among young Congolese with twice-a-week practices to develop enough players to field competitive teams. The new league does not have the equipment budget for the protective gear of the hard tackling of the NFL, so they play a variation of the game called flat football, where the player with the ball is stopped when his flag is taken. That frustrates Coach Chafali.
These kids are trained, but they also want to put on the armor one day. They do have fun, but they eventually want to make it to the NFL. The NFL is a tackling party, and there's got to be that contact.
His players seem to enjoy it, and it helps them stand out.
I used to play basketball, but everybody plays basketball. So when you say you play American football, people are like, "What is this?" It's something fresh that you bring, you know? It feels pretty cool.
Banker Plant Kibadi heads the Federation of Congolese Football, one of 16 African countries to have an organizing body for the American sport.
Comme je dis, et comme j'aime bien le dire,
We do have a dream.
Like I usually say, we do have our dream being to see this discipline practiced throughout the whole country, and we'll get there.
As for Americans in Kinshasa, they are surprised and pleased. Hugh Matheson directs the American Language Institute here.
What they lack in experience, they make up for with enthusiasm. They love it, and it was fun to watch them play. There's some great basketball players come out of this country, Dikembe Mutombo, Serge Ibaka. But I can see a day when we're recruiting American football players from here.
Matheson is especially impressed by one of his students, the starting quarterback, Hervé Zeng.
For me, I don't talk much, so football helps me express myself. It allows me to release energy in a different way. I will let my actions do the talk.
There is no letting up to the Kinshasa Football League schedule, with a training camp in June, outreach to local schools, and a tournament to create new teams with the best players, all to make DRC an American football country in its own right. Anastasie Tudièche, VOA News, Kinshasa.
Filmmaker Greg Barker has already made one movie about the United Nations diplomat Sergio Vieira de Mello, a documentary that was released in 2009. And now the former frontline producer is doing it again with a fictionalized version featuring former Narcos star Wagner Moura in the lead. Check it out.
Brazilian diplomat Sergio Vieira de Mello spent a long career working on humanitarian issues around the world. Greg Barker and Wagner Moura came together to craft Sergio, which premiered at the Sundance Festival in January and is now available on Netflix.
The serendipity is that as we were ready to make the movie, the perfect sort of actor to play Sergio, Brazilian, sort of came across and wanted to play the role as well. So it's interesting how this whole thing came about.
For me, this is a film about empathy, about Sergio. When Sergio was killed, he was the High Commissioner for Human Rights. So it's also a film about the importance of human rights and the importance of having leaders in the world that see people with a different kind of lenses, with different point of view, but see people as people, not as statistics, not as numbers.
I have survivors. Do you copy? We're running out of time.
There's nothing else coming.
You need to leave the air.
I need to find him. Do you hear me?
And with that, we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank you for joining us and for joining me here in the forest where I am broadcasting to you from. Thank you very much for joining us. I really do appreciate that. Check us out at voanews.com. Connect with us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook. We are also on Instagram. Especially we are on YouTube where you can watch our videos. And remember to subscribe and like. Most importantly, follow WHO guidelines on how to avoid, to treat COVID-19. Until next time, I wish you good health. Goodbye.